programs.
Thank you, Marshall. Let's now discuss the different programs collected and certified in end of year. All students enrolled at any point during the academic year and were in the following programs must be reported. So for end of year 2, you have the Title 1 Part A Basic Targeted, Title 1 Part A Neglected, Armed Forces Family Member, 504 Accommodation Plan, Opportunity Program, the California Partnership Academy, Pregnant or Parenting Programs, formerly CalSafe, the Transitional Kindergarten, and not listed here but is also collected is Title 1 Part A Schoolwide. However, the Schoolwide program is not submitted as a program record, but all students attending a specific school that is eligible for school-wide funding are counted and automatically reported as school-wide participating students. And what's new this year is the moving of the homeless reporting from end of year 2 to end of year 3. None of the reporting requirements and process have changed with regards to homeless program reporting. However, it's just basically be part of the end of year 3 certification. Let's now discuss these programs in detail. Let's first start with the Transitional Kindergarten program. TK program is one of the programs collected in both Fall 1 and end of year. It is essentially an extra public school grade that began in 2012 and is designed to be a bridge between preschool and kindergarten. Children who are enrolled in transitional kindergarten can enroll in a regular kindergarten class the following year. Transitional kindergarten came about after the California legislature approved the Kindergarten Readiness Act in 2010. Until then, children who were 4 years old on September 1st could still enroll in regular kindergarten as long as they turned 5 by December 2nd of that year. But the new law changed that. Beginning in 2012, children had to be 5 by September 1st to enroll in regular kindergarten. In response, transitional kindergarten was established to serve those 4-year-olds who were previously eligible for kindergarten. In terms of reporting, students are enrolled with a KN grade level and are reported with a Student Program 185. This student program basically differentiates them from a regular kindergarten class. Okay. With regards to the program start date, it's basically the date the student was identified as participating in the first year of the transitional kindergarten program at a school, which is basically the first day of school for TK. For the end date, it is the last day of the student's participation in the transitional kindergarten program, which is normally the last day of school for the academic year or the last day of school that the student was in. So records must be closed at the end of the student's first year of participation in the transitional kindergarten program, or it will be auto-closed upon a student's enrollment exit in CalPAS for that year. Next is the 504 Accommodation Plan. The goal of 504 plans is for students to be educated in regular classrooms along with the services, accommodations, or educational aids they might need. If students with these plans can achieve satisfactory academic success, as is determined by the school, then alternative settings in the school or private or residential programs can be considered. A 504 plan is different from an individualized education program or IEP. The main difference is that a 504 plan modifies a student's regular education program in a regular classroom setting. A 504 plan is monitored by classroom teachers. In contrast, a student with an IEP may receive different educational services in a special or regular educational setting, depending on the student's need. IEP programs are delivered and monitored by additional school support staff. Also, parental approval and involvement is required for an IEP but not for a 504 plan. So, full parental participation in the 504 plan process, however, is important for the student's academic success. In terms of reporting, eligible students are reported with a with a program 101 record. The program start date is the date the student was identified as having a 504 accommodation plan, while the program end date is the date the student was determined to be ineligible at a school. So a student's eligibility should be verified annually. However, these records are not required to be closed at the end of the year for returning students. Next is the Armed Forces Family Member Program. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, includes a military student identifier, which requires school districts to assign a unique identification number to military students, such as done for other special populations, like special education or migrant ed. And this allows educators to monitor their progress in order to implement strategic programs to increase academic success. So Education Program Code 192 will be used to meet the ESSA reporting requirements here in California. LAs are asked to submit this data if available. Eligibility is based on the parent's most recent active military status. The program start date must be on or after the student's birth date, while the program end date should be populated when a student was identified as being no longer considered Armed Forces family member or the last day of the school. A student is considered to be an Armed Forces family member if at least one parent is an Armed Forces member on active duty or serves on full-time National Guard duty. So a student, so for armed forces means the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. Active duty means full-time duty in the active military service of the United States, while full-time National Guard duty means training or other duty other than inactive duty. Next is the Title I Part A Basic Targeted Program. It's a program providing services to improve student academic achievement of eligible schools in Title I schools, specifically Title I Targeted Assistance Schools. The Education Program Code 122 is used to identify this program. When reporting a student program start date, it should be the date the student was identified as participating in the program at the school, which is normally the first day of school. While for the program end date, that would be the date a student ceases participating in the program at a school or the last day of school for that academic year. So each student may have multiple Program 122 records, but with different education service codes to identify the different areas of improvement. So Program 122 for schools that are used for schools that are identified as Title I Part A targeted assistance schools. Okay? This is different from your Title I school-wide school, which isn't a program reported in CalPEDS. Records should be closed out annually and resubmitted the following academic year with a new program start date and possibly a new Title I Services Education Service Code a student is receiving. As mentioned earlier, there are two Title I Part A programs. First is the Title I Part A Targeted Assistance Program, and the second is your Title I Part A Schoolwide Program. So what is the difference between these two programs? So for Title I Part A Basic Targeted, you submit a program record to CalPADS using program code 122. And of course, that end result can be reviewed on report 5.2. On the other hand, the Title I Part A Basic Schoolwide Program is not a program that you submit to CalPADS. You do not submit a program. So when you certify in CARS or your consolidated application record system that a school is operating as a school-wide, then all students enrolled in that school are automatically counted as a school-wide participant. So you review report 5.1. Upon CAR certification, the total school enrollment count should automatically reflect under the school-wide column. So incorrectly certifying CARS designation may possibly trigger CERT 97 errors in end of year 2. So it is important that when your business officer or whoever certifies your CONAP status certifies, they make sure that they certify the correct status of each school. Otherwise, you'll get a CERT 97, wherein you'll be forced to report a Program 122 record, even if a school is a school-wide school. So for additional resources, you may go to the CARS website and also look at the Title I Targeted Assistance resource page as well as the school-wide program resource page. The Pregnant or Parenting Program. This program indicates eligibility in a program providing services to students who are pregnant or parenting, including but not limited to the California School-Age Families Education Program or CalSAFE. Originally, the student subgroup was reported in compliance to CalSAFE requirements. However, the program has been defunct. The data collected will be used instead to identify pregnant or parenting students for Carl Perkins Career Technical Education Program reporting. Both a student, father, and or mother who are parenting may be reported with the program using program code 162. For the program start date, this would be the date the student was determined to be eligible. For the program end date, that would be the date the student was determined to be ineligible at the school or is no longer parenting. The program record should not be closed annually for returning students. For students exiting the school, these records may but are not required to be closed. Next is the California Partnership Academy. The Partnership Academy model is a 3-year program involving students in grades 10 through 12 and is structured as a school within a school. Academies incorporate integrated academic and career technical education, business partnerships, mentoring, and internships. There are currently 340 funded programs throughout California. Participating students are reported with program code 113. With regards to the program start date, it's the date a student was identified as participating in the program at a school. For the end date, it is the last day a student ceased participating in a program at a school or the date the student exited the school. The CPA program records are not required to be closed at the end of the year for returning students. However, a student's eligibility should be verified annually. Next is the Opportunity Education Program. Opportunity Education schools, classes, and programs provide a supportive environment with specialized curriculum, instruction, guidance and counseling, psychological services, and tutorial assistance to help students overcome barriers to learning. Opportunity education should not be viewed as a holding place for resistant learners, but as an intervention to ensure student success. Participating students are reported with program code 108, and with regards to the program start date, is the date a student was identified as participating in the program at a school. For the end date, it is the date a student ceased participating in a program at a school or the date the student exited the school. Opportunity program records are not required to be closed at the end of the year for returning students. However, a student's eligibility should be verified annually. Next is the Homeless Students Program. The McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act is federal legislation that ensures the educational rights and protections of children and youth experiencing homelessness. It requires all LEAs to ensure that homeless students have access to the same free, appropriate public education, including public preschools as provided to other children and youths. By definition, any displaced child or youth is living in a who is living in a shelter, motel, inadequate trailer or house, or is staying temporarily with relatives or friends due to economic hardship or loss of housing, or is living in any other homeless situation has educational rights under the McKinney-Vento Act. Participating students are reported with program code 191. With regards to the program start date, it's the date a student was identified as homeless at any school in California. For the end date, it is the date a student was determined as no longer eligible for the program. Just a point of emphasis, LEA should report a student in CalPADS as homeless as soon as the information is available so as not to miss out on reporting eligibility. So every homeless program record submitted must include information for the following data elements. First, the date the student was identified as homeless, followed by the type of dwelling the student is living in. Also, whether or not the student is accompanied. By definition, unaccompanied is not in the direct care of their parent or guardian. And fourth is whether or not the student is a runaway, which technically is a homeless student who is less than 18 years of age who has left home without parental or caregiver permission and stays away for one or more nights. The following table lists the possible dwelling times you may choose from and its corresponding codes. Unsheltered is also defined as substandard or inadequate housing and is judged on a case by case basis. So, a rule of thumb would be to see the dwelling as a comparable to an automobile in that it shelters, yet it is not adequate housing.
Here are the EOY2 certification errors detected during the snapshot revisions process. Fatal certification errors will prohibit you from certifying, but warnings won't. You still need to review your warnings and make any necessary corrections. Warnings should not be ignored because they can impact the data on the EOY aggregate reports. Let's have some details on these errors.